You will hear a little clip of me singing because that is Venus in the second house. So that is not the whole video. But if you would like to skip, I will put that in the description box below to skip that part. I'm halfway from letting you go, and I'm half brave, but standing alone. 5 years of knowing that you were the one taught me to walk. Now I'm ready to run, run fast out the door. And I'm sorry, but I need more. I can't believe that I'm getting this close. Halfway to freedom, halfway to letting you go. Time to let go. Halfway to letting you go. Time to let go. I'm halfway to letting you go. I hope you liked my little intro to Venus as my chart ruler being in Scorpio and in the second house. So this is a little bit of astrology, of using it as a tool to help you become more aware of yourself and aware of other people. They have certain traits and talents and desires, wants, needs, luck, bad luck, transformation, to help you heal or just become more aware. And acceptance comes first, and then you can go from there. Venus in Scorpio, that is what I have at a very strong, whopping 28 degrees, which means it's kind of very evolved and developed, and it's a strong placement. And for me, being a Libra rising, this is my chart ruler, so it is going to direct who I am, and it's going to lead and direct basically my trajectory in life. That could be like one way of describing that. So I can say so far for my own life that my chart ruler, Venus in Scorpio, Scorpio represents change and transformation, and I have to say that yes, this is true. Even though it's not short, quick bursts of change and transformation, they come over a long period of time. And unfortunately, the feeling of Scorpio, if any of you have Scorpio as a strong placement or have a ton of planets in the 8th house of Scorpio, then you might get that feeling of always feeling that you're dying. Your soul has died, and you have no choice but to rise from the ashes, rise like a phoenix, and you become stronger and more resilient. They're actually pretty badass because they're like true survivors, because they can overcome a lot of crap and shit. And of course, that is dependent on what you perceive crap and shit is. Venus rules a lot of things. How you love, obviously, because Venus rules love. Your love style, finances, because in beauty, because in order to have beautiful things or nice things, then usually it relates to money too, because most of the time, in order to get nicer and nicer things, you have to have more and more money. So it rules money. Technically, the 8th house, it rules other people's money. So it can be more like inheritances, taxes, debt, your in-laws, things that are unseen or unknown. The set like sex and occult things are very deep, hidden, and mysterious. If you watch Game of Thrones, Scorpio makes me think of Mr. Littlefinger. He just reminds me of like a Scorpio. Mr. Littlefinger in Game of Thrones, he like rules the brothels. It's kind of like the secret money exchanges from like the rich people, wanting that type of stuff for exchange of money. He's all about secrets and getting to know like, this person, and that, like playing chess, but with hidden secrets and stuff, and how to maneuver through whatever in order to climb up to the top. So he kind of makes me think of just Scorpio energy in general, not necessarily Venus and Scorpio, but just the scorpionic kind of energy. It's like also power control, power plays, and also like resiliency, being able to overcome, a lot of stuff. You're like tough. So us people with Venus and Scorpio love very, very, very deeply. Okay. And for me, this is true. Maybe on the outside, people wouldn't notice, or the person I'm in a relationship might not really comprehend how deeply I like really love them, because it's so deep. And for like my other placements and such, I'm probably not as expressive or lovey-dovey, because I got a lot of Capricorn stuff and they're very stoic and very like, okay. But Scorpios feel very, very deeply. It's like it's fixed water, and all the water signs represent emotion. But think of a Scorpio, it's the only one that can fight back or it hurts. Scorpio energy is like a power washer. It is very fixated and powerful to the point where if you power wash over your bare foot, you will actually get like a bruise or a mark. You will get cut, in a different way, not like in a sharp, like a blade type of way, but you'll get like a red bruise or rash. And I had power washed the driveway before that was like caked to where it's like so black and tar, and it's very, I have to say, meditative when you do it. And when you power wash something that is so thick, the layers, Scorpio can power wash and clean up all that crud. It's so powerful as a water energy that when it's going through, like it's a deep cleanse, but it's so deep and strong in order to like clean that crud. So then we can kind of go into Scorpio is almost like being into psychology, the deep mind. You can relate it to other signs too, like Pisces is the subconscious mind of the 12th house. But Scorpio also rules these type of things because it's deep, secretive stuff that it's not very obvious. So having Scorpio and Venus in this placement, these people can be very interested in the mind or psychology, be therapists, consultants, counselors, which is what I am doing also. It's just very fascinating. They just like the real raw stuff. They don't like superficial, everyday thing. It's too superficial. It's not interesting. I wanted to add that song before. It's by Mimi Webb. It's called Halfway. And part of the lyrics is about letting go. And so Scorpios, one of the hardest traits for them, because it's a fixated like emotion or it's just a fixed water energy, is that these people usually have a really, really, really hard time letting go. Just let that shit go. And they just have a hard time letting things go. It takes them a really, really long time when they felt hurt or like overcoming like a relationship that didn't turn out the way that they wanted, or if someone passed away in the family that they were really, really close to, or maybe losing a job that they really loved. Or just all these emotional things that are happening and maybe it's not fair. They have a really hard time processing and letting go of whatever these emotions are to heal and overcome. So even like angry people, they might really latch on to the feeling of anger, or just like deep depression and just trying to just let it go. These can be one of the signs that have a really hard time overcoming, or letting go of things that they wanted to work out because they're very fixated. They wanted things to work out in their way. It's like power and control. Maybe they really, really, really worked on like a relationship, but you can't control other people. And if it didn't turn out the way that they wanted, they have a really hard time letting go that the other person doesn't want them, for example. To say it's like you want to know the raw truth, even though it's hurtful, or it's ugly, it's not pretty, it's not that fluffy, pristine presentation that a lot of people might want to showcase to the world. Venus in Scorpio wants to know, or get to know, like if it's in a relationship or a friendship, they want to really know that person, all the ugly truths. What makes that person that person? What makes that person tick? What makes that person do the things that they do because of past pain, past hurts, past lessons, past whatever. It wants to know why. So that's a very Venus in Scorpio kind of trait. My Venus being in the second house, so it's like, since I'm a Libra rising and all my houses are pretty equal, mine is kind of in the same yet opposite. So it's like my finances, if you were to literally kind of analyze it, it's almost like my personal finances is almost like other people's money. And you can think that's like everyone, because in order to make money, you get it from other people, or from a business, it's still other people. So I'm not sure about that, but Venus being placed here, what was I gonna go with that? It's in Taurus, basically. It's Venus in the second house of Taurus. Weird way, Venus being in the second house, it's kind of at home at the same time. So it's like almost like Scorpio is the evil twin sister, and Taurus, the second house, was like, well, this is the pretty, like everything went well, twin, and the other twin was like, they got the short end of the stick. So it's kind of like one and the same. There's probably like a mix to that, but Taurus represents pleasurable things that smell good, taste good, look good, it pleases the senses, it's very secure and stable, it's fixed earth. So it at the same time wants to have fixed, secure stability. And you can think Scorpio is, wants to make personal income through, and Scorpio with money is like, well, wants to interact with other people in order to make money, wants to be emotional and love what they do in order to make money, or heal people. All the emotion, all the water signs are almost like healers, or want to help and be of service to other people. So you can relate it to that. A deep psychological ways of making money, like psychology. So you can kind of play with that based on where your placements are and the rest of your chart. And Venus in the second house, they tend to love singing. That's why I gave you a nice little pretty intro of singing. I am not a professional at all, as you can tell. I naturally always had like a pretty good singing voice, but I never took choir or practiced that because I didn't speak, first of all, and I was really, really shy, and there was just kind of, I didn't gravitate towards that. I would do that in my own privacy of my shower, in my bedroom, and in the car. And that was a practice that I can kind of do it in front of some people and such, but blah. So Taurus rules like the tongue, taste buds, the voice, the vocal cords. So Venus being in Scorpio, Taurus, it's like a combination of kind of bringing beauty, finance, love language to personal finances as well as receiving help from others, whether that's like loan debt or family inheritance. So it's a mix, which you can say that can be most people. What I've really noticed for Venus being in the second house is that I kind of developed higher self-esteem because of my background. So I don't know if that's part of Libra rising and me kind of learning how to work as a child, kind of being trained to have really good work ethic. Growing up as a child, I practiced so many different skill sets and never gave up on it, that I built up high tolerance to building up self-confidence and self-esteem. So you can kind of relate Venus being in the second house of self-esteem and beauty to this. So for example, like personal training or going to the gym, doing ballet for 16 years, that I have practiced this skill set and tolerance consistently over time. That can be a mixture of the Capricorn thing, or Aries competitive in physical demonstration or skills, but it raises self. Venus loves everything to be beautiful and nice, good looking, so aesthetics are very important. Aesthetics might be important not only for myself, but in order to find an attractive mate who matches my personal idea of what that is. So, like, you always have to look at yourself. You can be like, oh, I want some hot dude or hot female with six-pack abs who looks really good physically, but you have to look at yourself and say, like, do I match that? Am I equivalent to someone like that? Would someone like that want someone like me? So if I don't do anything, I sit on the couch and just drink Coca-Cola all day, every day, most likely that person is not going to see me as their match. So that's where this kind of duo thing of other people, because Scorpio kind of represents relationships, but also the other in finances. You can think kind of negatively too of Scorpios, like they're manipulative. I'm not saying that I'm manipulative, but everyone makes their own personal choices. So someone with Venus in Scorpio, or maybe Venus in Taurus, Venus in Leo, like there's multiple signs that can exude this kind of behavior, like a female trying to improve their own looks in order to get a rich mate, like it can play out in that way. But for me, it's almost like self-confidence, self-value, self-esteem. This way, I'm really good at breaking things down and teaching other people many skill sets. Or I tell parents all the time, try to teach your kids as much skills in a variety of skills as much as possible, and make sure that they stick with it, because they're going to want to quit sometimes, and that's not going to get them anywhere. They have to kind of fight through those little bumps, and they'll get over it and they'll enjoy it again if they're having like a little rough patch. Usually, I can't say for all of you, but it helps build self-esteem when you get your child or even an adult to stick to a new hobby, new activity, new skill from an entry level and work their way up, and you feel better when you've overcome those challenges. Venus in Scorpio, what else? Or Venus in the second house. There's like influence or need, desire for finances in order to provide for the nice things in life. So I could have chosen just to be an artist and not care about whatever, or like become a dancer, because I always loved dancing, but I wasn't naturally that talented to be, like a professional dancer. So it didn't seem realistic to me. That's my Capricorn speaking. Um, but dancers don't make a lot of money, and that was my deal breaker. And it's like, I don't want to go that path, because I like to live a comfortable. So Venus being in the second house, they want to have a finance, comfortable finance. They want to have a secure finance. Or there's also change and transformation in the bank account, okay? So it's high lows and high highs. It kind of transforms because Scorpio is change and transformation. So there's ups and downs. Venus and Scorpio being like my chart ruler, and there's a lot of influence on relationships in my life. So relationships in this lifetime for me is going to teach me in some weird way that doesn't seem very literal to make me grow and transform and become a better version of myself by force, not because I really, really wanted to. So Venus and Scorpio, change and transformation, change and transformation aesthetically. So I can think of progressively over the years, work on aesthetics. It's just important to Venus and Scorpio people for whatever reason. Aesthetics are important. And Venus does not usually like being in Scorpio. It's almost like putting Princess Peach and putting her in the dungeon with Wednesday Addams. Wednesday Addams loves being very dark, and deep, but Princess Peach does not like the deep psychological cray-cray that happens in Wednesday Addams' mind. She likes the pink and purple, superficial house, kind of like Barbie. Venus is at her fall in Scorpio, just because it's not very lighthearted. It's pretty deep and dark and scary, because transformation is kind of scary for most people. We have to say most people don't change. Most people have a really hard time getting out of their comfort zone, and Venus just has to change and transform, and it's not always comfortable. It's not like a light fluffy cloud that is so easy to go on by. I don't know if I made that part up or that's like a good metaphor or translation for Venus and Scorpio. But I think that is all that I can come up with off the top of my head, and that is Venus and Scorpio in the second house. Okay, bye. Venus and Scorpio can have a tendency to be in a negative aspect. There's always good and bad to all the signs. But Venus and Scorpio can have, or any actual strong placement in Scorpio can have this, like a moon or a Mars, can have like a jealous, obsessive type quality to this personality type. Doesn't mean that the person acts out on those things, but it is an energy. You can relate it to like training. They can be very fixated and focused on what they're trying to do and achieve. Whether it's working out, whether it can be like controlling your food intake, like a anorexic or bulimia. So it's like an obsessive, fixated quality, which can be good or bad. When you fix all your focus and energy on something, you're usually going to get really, really good at it. Like we need that energy. Like think of doctors and surgeons and whoever, when you have to really focus and study on something very specific and you just love it so much, then, you know, they're going to become really, really great. If someone didn't have that kind of energy, then it'll be like, it might be really scary. You wouldn't have those outstanding performers in whatever category you can make up. Can be also good investigators and detectives because they're really good at digging deep, deep, deep into things. So whatever you can relate that with. So just think of scorpionic energy is um, fixation or kind of like an obsession to whatever their directive is, whether that is like working out or becoming like the best ballerina or the best football player. You know, you have to get really intense on your training, all the way to their food. Like, how extreme are they? Even like the Olympians, they can have like this very fixated energy, fixated and focused drive, and it's powered through emotion. So it could be fixated, focused with the root cause of some kind of emotional push that drives this person into whatever they're fixating on. So you can think of people who turn some kind of pain or hardship, and instead of channeling that to destructive behaviors, they channeled it into working out and training to the point where they overcome a lot of things and achieve great things. Or it's because they feel very deeply. And power, like the power of emotion, is really, really great. If you ever heard of you do the craziest things when you're in love, like you can do some really dumb stuff because you're just not thinking about it. The power of emotions are so strong that it will propel you to act out on whatever these things are, and hopefully you've learned certain boundaries or what's good and not good for yourself to maneuver that, channeling that control and power into losing weight, because you're just so sick and tired of feeling a certain way, looking a certain way, being tired, not fitting into clothes. There comes like a point or a threshold where you just have to do something about it. So that can be a scorpionic kind of thing of change and transformation. You see the fit to fat or the fat to fit kind of transformations, like these extreme makeovers. I'm putting out more kind of workout or body transformations as examples, but this can apply to other things. So like, I didn't speak when I was young, and this was a really, really long process, and now I've become more and more comfortable speaking. That is change and transformation based on I want to be happy with, because the emotion of not being happy at a job that I like, if I had to be stuck in a lab or do something that I absolutely hate, I am powered by the emotions and feelings that, like, hey, I have to suck it up and get better at speaking or being comfortable speaking, asking questions, doing all this stuff. If I want to get the reward, being happy at my job, doing something that I care about, getting paid more than being maybe a dancer that doesn't get as much, like a ballet dancer. I'm not talking about like a pole strip dancer or anything like that. I don't do that. I'm not saying it's bad if you do. But get creative with how you think about these things, because everyone's life is different and we all have the power of free will and choice. So your natal chart can show prominent energies to certain sections that will kind of direct and dictate your life or what your soul came down here to learn, whether you believe that or not. But you still have all of the zodiac energies in your chart, and you can still choose to act on any of these energies. It's just maybe your what do we call it? Your conditioning from childhood, because we're all conditioned, whether you like it or not, from your family upbringing and what you saw and what you heard. And that was your little bubble of environment. That is your habit and programming that kind of sets you off into the trajectory of your life, unless you choose to, practice those changes if you didn't like it. So think of it that way. So Venus is at her fall in Scorpio. Just because it's not very lighthearted, it's pretty deep and dark and scary, because transformation is kind of scary for most people. We have to say most people don't change. Most people have a really hard time getting out of their comfort zone, and Venus just has to change and transform, and it's not always comfortable. It's not like a light fluffy cloud that is so easy to go on by. I don't know if I made that part up or that's like a good metaphor translation for Venus and Scorpio. But I think that is all that I can come up with off the top of my head, and that is Venus and Scorpio in the second house. Okay, bye.